So, your audience means not your customers, and during the next, I think, 25 minutes, I'm going to give you glimpses over the 4 lessons that I've learned in understanding and closing and retaining our ideal customers. So, before starting, let me give you a glimpse over Sisyphus. So, that guy was condemned by the gods to push a huge rock towards the top of the mountain. And once he got there with the rock would roll back again. And he would start over and over again. And that was me and my team 3 years ago when we tried to tackle churn, customer churn and revenue churn. My name is Valentin. I've made a lot of terrible mistakes. And my only merit is that I haven't stopped. I'm part of Omniconvert. We are a global company which addresses the conversion rate optimization and customer experience optimization. We work with a lot of companies from various verticals, from e-commerce to software as a service and lead gen. And this is our journey from lookalike customers, and this is actually a race. Have you seen this news? There were 8,000 Santas running for a good cause. That's our journey from 23% revenue churn to only 2.7% churn in January 2019. Have you ever heard of this guy, Ignaz Semmelweis? Which one of you have heard about this guy? Nobody. That's good. So he's a physician. He used to work at the General Hospital in Vienna in 1800. The mortality rate among his section was staggering. So he had a mortality rate of 10%. So that means 1 mother out of 10 were dead after the intervention of his section. So in the second section of his maternity, though, the mortality rate was bad as well, but not that bad. It was 1 to 50, which makes him think about how to tackle this problem. So he thought about it, and he got a 4-month period to get off the hospital. But something intriguing was happening in his absence. So the mortality rate in his section has fallen significantly in his absence. And the problem wasn't revealed. So once he got back, the mortality rate has gone back again. And it was frustrating for him to find out that he's actually killing so many mothers. People were actually begging not to be going in his section. So he started to investigate the research, and he managed to identify that the doctors in his section, they were always also doing the research on cadavers. And that was the first origin of the germ theory. His theory was that particles from cadavers and other disease patients were being somehow transmitted to the healthy patients by the hands of the physicians. So as a result, he started an experiment, and the policy that he instituted in his section was you don't go to operate unless you are washing your hands with a solution consisting on lemon and salt. So the death rate immediately plummeted to 1 out of 100. So why am I stating this fact about Semmelweis was that unless you identify yourself as a problem, you can't make it happen. So I've actually managed to understand, what if I am the problem of our revenue churn? What if we are doing something bad? Or what if the management is the problem? And you can ask yourself the same thing. Because if you look at the same problem, which one of you can see here a duck? Raise your hands. Is here a duck? And how many of you can see a rabbit here? And how many of you can see a rabbit and a duck? Okay, except this lady which is seeing her phone. That means I'm not engaging enough. So the problem with the duck and the rabbit is the problem with the management, because we see the same amount of data, we see the same amount of information, but we are interpreting it differently according to our position. So we look at how the things are going in the data, and we don't realize that we are the problem. So if you ignore your customers, you can you can't be too big to fall. And that was the thing with Thomas Cook as well. And the fact that is interesting enough is that they've got this data through a simple search on trends.google.com, right? So you could see how people were looking for the products that they were and services that they were selling by just looking on trends.google.com, right? So they were in the travel industry, and they could see that Skyscanner and Booking.com were catching up back in 2010, and this tool was available since that moment. But they haven't noticed it, and as you can see here, that made them got out of the business because they've lacked the connection between them and what customers actually expect from them. And I don't know about the US, but in the UK, you could see that the banks have the same amount of data. So you could see how Barclays or HSBC are comparing with things like Revolut or Monzo. So that's clear that the customers are not in it for old school financial services. So the first lessons that I've learned is that the customer behavior in itself is not the problem. You or your company or the mentality of your company to be disconnected from the real expectations of your customer is the real problem. For the second lesson, I would like to engage you in a quick test. So I'm gonna count to 3, and then I'm gonna get to the next slide. And once we get to the next slide, you should be starting to count black squares on the screen. So 1, 2, 3. You have 10 seconds. So how many black squares are out there? 4, 3, 2, 1. How many? 20? Okay, so the question for you is actually how many were green? And that's the second lesson that I've learned as well. So if all you have is a hammer, all you can see, everything looks like a nail to you. So that's what's happening when we are too stubborn to look at the same amount of data or looking at the same, using the same tools that we've been always be using. So if we look only at things like year-over-year revenue or growth or active users, and we disregard things like Net Promoter Score or customer expectation or customer effort score, if we simply don't care about the fact that what we're actually selling is emotions of customers which need to be engaged and satisfied, that means we are losing the whole game. So back in 2013 and until 2016, we wrongfully thought that GA has all the answers for us. And we thought that we can understand the customer behavior by looking at the data. And that was simply wrong, because GA shows you only data about visits, about strangers which are on your website, and not about your customers. And they don't have any kind of voice, so you can feel the emotions through Google Analytics. And we wanted actually not more visitors, but we wanted more happy customers. And the second lesson that we've learned is that being data-driven doesn't mean you are bias-free. So we always carry our cognitive biases with us, and we look at the data through our cognitive biases. Things like anchoring or loss aversion or framing are traps that we fall in day by day. So if we don't look at the data differently, if we don't look different angles so that we can understand real growth, we can't get to the next phase of our company. So after we realized that GA is not the way to go, we've started to look at our own data, and we started to do this to segment our audience through different ways. So one thing was to look at the markets and their share of revenue and their share of usage and their share of support tickets. And we realized something interesting, because in South America or in Asia, the support tickets were far more than the revenue that they've generated. However, almost all of the revenue was coming from the US and Europe. But we haven't stopped here. We've took a look at what kind of companies are using our product. And we've realized that there are actually the e-commerce and the lead generation companies which are generating the most impact in our revenue. Going further, we've realized okay, let's look at the size of these companies. How many employees do they have, and what's the share of support tickets according to the number of employees? And for us, that was for the first shocking anomaly, that we are generating a lot of revenue from the companies which are having more than 200 employees, but they have only 18% of our support tickets. And that rang a bell in our heads. Going further, we've segmented our customers according to their subscription period. So we've got 4 types of subscription: capped traffic, advanced payment, monthly plans, and annual plans. And when we look at the share of revenue and the share of usage, we've also seen that the ones which are using the annual plans are the most important for us from a profit perspective. Going further, we've also looked at how we are assisting them. So we've got 2 types of support levels: the premium support and the standard support. So, however, what was revealing for us is that the lifespan of the customers which got the premium support have been 3 times more than the customers which were using the standard support. So that meant for us that we should really think about how to make them successful, because we've wrongfully thought that Omniconvert is a tool for conversion rate optimization and is a tool in itself, but what customers were needing was not another tool. They were needing a solution to their problem, which was website experimentation or getting more conversions from their traffic. So they've lacked the knowledge, the know-how, and let's say the methodology to make it happen. And that's where we've made them successful, and their churn was far good for us than it was for the other type of customers. And going further, we've also looked at the inbound channel and the outbound channels as the share of revenue and also the share of usage. So we couldn't see any difference until we look at the lifetime span as well. So we've seen that the customers which were somehow having the know-how around what they will do with our platform through our blog and through our webinars and through our PDFs and walkthroughs, they were far better than the ones which were coming through outbound channels. And that's how we realized that inbound should be our main channel. Going further, we've also looked at their features, and we've got all these features like A/B testing only. They were using personalization or A/B testing. They were using overlays only, and we've realized that only 5% of our customers were using all the features that we've got in the platform. And that was as well eye-opening for us, because what we thought that is a point of difference was not a point of difference from their perspective. So after we've made all this research, we've realized that we have a different ideal customer profile. So we've migrated from all the markets towards US and Europe, from all the verticals towards agencies and e-commerce, from software as a service to service as a software, and this is a term coined by Sean Shepard. And we realized that we can't provide only a tool, because it's such a complex tool that the people are simply churning because they don't have the know-how about how to do website optimization. Then we've migrated from companies of all size to mid-size and enterprise companies, and last but not the least, we've migrated from more features and all targets, all markets as a mentality towards solving real problems of our ideal customer profile, better mentality. So that was our moment, and from that moment onwards, this was the ICP that we were looking for. So that meant our content, our targeting, all our efforts were towards customers which are falling behind this profile. So another insight for us was that one single ideal customer profile was generating revenue as much as 376 average customers, and for us was really eye-opening to understand that the support that we are providing on them was far less than we provided to 376 customers. So that made them even more profitable, and if we subtracted the effort. So that was how the revenue churn curve, that is how it looks after all these actions that we took and after understanding who's our ideal customer profile. And in order to do this for yourselves, I've made this small diagram. So you have to enrich your data about your customers from various set of tools. First, you need customer voice, which is very important because they are saying what they need and what they expect from you. So you can find out things like barriers or reasons, net promoter score or customer effort score. Then you have the customer attributes. If they are into B2B, you need their function, industry, location, and da-da-da. And then if they are in B2C, you need city, demographics, and so on. Then you need commercial data, and that is different if you're in a software as a service or if you're in e-commerce. You need to enrich the data based on their segment. If you are in e-commerce, then you need things like RFM score. If you are in software as a service, you would need more things related to the lifetime value and the usage. So going further, if you have digital products, you need to analyze the behavior. So once you mix all this data, you can understand the anomalies in your data set, and you can understand what is the share of revenue throughout all these attributes, and then you can mix them together so that you understand who's your ideal customer profile. And that's the methodology that we've been using in order to improve our revenue churn. So we first start with customer acquisition costs so that we realize how expensive it is for us to acquire a customer. Then we do the customer segmentation according to demographics, behavior, acquisition channel, and other specific attributes. We enrich the data by doing qualitative research and understand their reasons to buy, their reasons to abandon, products, features that they are using. Then we generate insights by anomaly and pattern detection. We define the ideal customer profile, and then we create or adjust three things: the acquisition strategy, the retention strategy, and the customer service. Going further, the last but not the least is the ongoing personalization. So the third lesson for us was that persistence can be a trap if you insist in the wrong direction. So you should know your ideal customer profile inside out. Going further, if we look at our own history, we started back in 2013 as a conversion rate optimization software, and we thought that success means platform adoption or number of users or revenue. Back in 2016, when the churn was biting us very heavily, we realized that we need to do web optimization software and to provide also the solution for them to optimize their conversion rate. So success meant for us ARPU, or year-over-year growth, and customer retention. And back in 2019, what we are doing is we understood the power of customer retention, and we are building a customer retention software. And for us at this moment, after all this experience in 6 years, we've understood that first should be the employee happiness. Second should be the number of talented people which are coming in our company so that they can make the company thrive and go further. And last but not the least is the ICP happiness, because if your ideal customer profile is happy, that means you could pour a lot of resources into acquisition. Because as Dan Olson said 2 or 3 hours ago, was very important to understand that the customer retention is the main driver of growth after you launch a product. So you don't start with acquisition and conversion, because that means you have a lot of wastage into media. Any company has this kind of customers. For instance, we've realized that in e-commerce, by using the RFM segmentation, you could understand things like recency, frequency, and monetary value. And if you look at these kind of customers, you can understand what customers do you want to acquire. So these are the customers that bought most recently, most often, and they have the biggest monetary value. So we've understood on our own skin that this matters not only for us in software as a service, but it matters for our customers in e-commerce as well. And another important group are the X-lovers. So these have an RFM score of 155, right? So if 5 is the best score, you rate them according to their recency, frequency, and monetary value, and that means you have X-lovers that you don't know why they've abandoned your company. So based on our own experience, we've built another product which is called Reveal, which is identifying automatically the patterns for an e-commerce company. So it's revealing all these patterns, and we couldn't understand this unless we've got the previous problem of our own ICP, of not addressing our ICP ourselves. So Reveal is a tool that sums up all the findings that we've learned throughout our entire process and gives customer health score and gives buying patterns and uses machine learning to detect anomalies in the customer data. So the fourth lesson for us is that behind any problem can be a hidden opportunity. So that was me. Thanks a lot for your patience, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm a LinkedIn guy, so that was it.